Hola, bienvenidos. In this video, we're going to look at these things called reflexive verbs in Spanish. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's start with a definition. What are reflexive verbs? Well, first we need to clarify two things. The subject of a sentence. So what's the subject? It's the noun doing an action in a sentence. So if I say the boy kicks the ball, the subject would be the boy, because that's what's doing the kicking. The object of a sentence receives the action of the sentence. So in that same example, the boy kicks the ball. The object would be the ball because it's what's being kicked. Now you'll notice in my sample sentence, the subject and the object are different from one another. The subject was the boy, the object was the ball. In sentences where the subject and the object are the same person, or noun, let's say, that's what makes a reflexive verb. So in other words, the person doing the action is doing the action to themselves. So for example, I wash my hair. I'm doing the washing, but I'm also washing myself. That's what makes it reflexive. So again, the subject doing the action must also receive the action or be the object. Now, reflexive verbs, when you see them written as infinitives in Spanish, they're pretty easy to identify because they'll end in se on the end. So for example, lavar by itself would mean to wash, but lavarse is to wash oneself. Se makes it reflexive. Acostarse, cepillarse. The se on the end gives away that they're reflexive as infinitives. Now, based on the definition we just went over, remember that reflexive verbs or reflexive sentences, the subject and the object must be the same entity. So let's go through these sentences and see if you can identify if they are reflexive or not. Take a second, pause the video, try it on your own, and then we'll go through it together. Alrighty, let's take a look. I wash my dog once a week. This one, not reflexive. Why? Who's doing the washing? I. What's being washed? My dog. Are those the same people? Nope, so it's not reflexive. He wakes up his little brother for school. Not reflexive. Why? Who's doing the waking? He. What's being woken? His little brother. Are those the same people? No, so therefore the subject is not the object, and therefore not reflexive. You dry your hair, right? Yes, reflexive. Why? Who's doing the drying? You. What's being dried? Your hair. Are these part of the same people? Yes, so therefore that is reflexive. We brush our teeth twice a day. Yes, reflexive. Why? Who's doing the brushing? We. What's being brushed? Our teeth. Do those belong to the same people? Yep, so the subject and the object are the same. It is reflexive. What time do you get up? Yes, reflexive. You're getting yourself up here. There's no one that's waking you. You're waking yourself up. So therefore, that is reflexive. She washes the plates after dinner. Not reflexive. Who's doing the washing? She. What's being washed? The plates. Are those part of the same entity? Nope. So therefore, not reflexive. So this is the first step. You need to be able to identify when a reflexive is necessary and when it is not. That's the first step into using these verbs. Okay, so now that you can identify what's reflexive versus not, because what's important here is, remember, not everything's reflexive. Only some verbs and actions are. That's step one. Now that you can do that, now how do we conjugate these verbs? What do we do with this funky se on the end, lavarse? Well, we're going to use the same verb chart as always. The first step is we're going to get rid of the se. Just pretend it's not there. So first step, se's got to go. What are we going to do with it? It's going to transform. That se is going to change into what are called reflexive pronouns. So what are those? In the yo form, we use me. It would be like saying myself. For the to form, te. That would be like saying yourself. In la usted, se. So that would be like saying himself or herself or yourself, if it's usted. Whew, hard to write, so tiny. There we go. nosotros, the say becomes nos, and that would be like saying ourselves. For vosotros or vosotras, it would become os. Again, it's like yourselves, but plural for a friendly group, only in Spain. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, we use say, and it would be like saying themselves. And then yourselves, again for a group, but this time formal. Unless you're, it's formal if you're in Spain. If you're outside of Spain, it's for any group. So, step 1. That say we got rid of, and we transformed it into these 6 reflexive pronouns that express that the object and the subject are one and the same. So, me, te, say, nos, os, say. Great. That's what the say becomes. Step 2, conjugate the verb like you normally would. So, lavar. Plain old AR verb, easy peasy. Lavo, lavas, lava, lavamos, laváis, and lavan. So the verb gets its normal endings that you would see in the present tense. It's just now got this little conjugation, or not conjugation, pronoun in front of itself. So me lavo means I wash myself. Te lavas, you wash yourself. Se lava, he washes himself, she washes herself, you wash yourself. Nos lavamos, we wash ourselves. Os laváis, you all wash yourselves. Se lavan, they wash themselves, or you wash yourselves. So that's how we conjugate a reflexive verb. I know it's hard to wrap your head around, but these little pronouns are what make it reflexive, so they have to be present to express that reflexive form. Something to note here, notice that they're all in the same boxes, right? Like, you've seen other pronouns that look similar to these. When we use a reflexive verb and conjugate, the pronoun we choose and the conjugation have to come from the same box. Otherwise, if they come from different boxes, you're no longer being reflexive. So I can't decide that I'm going to use lavamos for my conjugation and use say in front of it. That doesn't exist. It's not a thing. I would have to use nos because it's from the same box as the conjugation. The other thing to note is reflexives tell me exactly who the action's being done to. Me lavo is I wash myself. There's no doubt who is being washed. Therefore, if that's followed up by either a body part, like I wash my hands, or clothing items, like if it was a different verb, like I put on a dress or my dress, typically there are no possessive adjectives used. So you wouldn't say in Spanish, I put on my dress, you'd say I put on the dress. Or instead of I wash my hands, the Spanish version would be I wash the hands. We already know they're yours because of the fancy dancy pronoun there. Alright, try these sentences on your own and see if you can get the reflexive verb correctly to fit in the sentence. Remember that when you conjugate, you can use a subject like yo. If you choose to use it, it would go in front of the reflexive pronoun. Now, do you have to use yo when you write? Nope, because your verb ending will give it away. So let's take a look and see what you can do. Pause the video here. Alright, let's take a look together. I wash my hands every day. Me lavo las manos cada día, or todos los días. Now, could I put yo here if I wanted to? Yep, but I don't have to because it's already expressed in the conjugation. So remember, I need all this me lavo to imply that I wash myself, and hands are a body part, so I say the hands because the me already gives away that they are mine. They wake up on time. Now, to wake up is interesting because it's a stem change verb. Now we have multiple elements going on. We're conjugating, we've got a stem change, and a reflexive. They can all coexist. So, ellos se despiertan a tiempo. So we got our nice stem change, we got our conjugation that we're used to, and remember we need se because they're waking themselves up, despertarse. Then we get ready quickly. Nos. Of course I could put nosotros here if I wanted to beforehand, but it's not necessary. Preparamos rápidamente. Nos preparamos is we get ready, like we prepare ourselves quickly. No one's getting us ready. We're doing the action ourselves, to ourselves. And that's what makes it reflexive and why it requires this nos before the conjugation. These take a little time to get used to for sure. The most common mistake I see is that once I show reflexives to people, they try to make everything reflexive. That's not how the language works. Not everything is being done to yourself. So you have to ask yourself, first of all, is a reflexive necessary? Second of all, practice the conjugations. Can you remember that you take off the se and that it changes into these nice pronouns for you? Whatever is going to help you remember that, stick to it and practice. And then you'll be able to use these more advanced verbs. These are super helpful, especially for talking about your daily routine, since typically you're the person getting yourself ready for whatever event you're going to. And that's reflexive verbs. Thanks for taking a look. Remember, practice the conjugations. Use online conjugation practicing tools. Personally, I like conjuguemos. And you can really master how to conjugate these new verbs with their special reflexive pronouns. Gracias, buena suerte, y nos vemos.